Hello, everybody. The story with H&M, this fashion shop, seems to be a hot story recently. Yeah. Well, just to brief you the very short story. But before I do it, I would like to remind you, please check your subscription, because several viewers has been reporting to us that their subscription disappeared. They don't get any notification. So make sure you are still subscribed, yeah, and make sure also that you have clicked on the notification bell. Otherwise, you will not get any automatic notification when a new episode came out. Now back to our H&M story. I really have to talk about that because recently the second biggest Swedish newspaper called Svenska Dagbladet, yeah, Swedish daily, they called me and interviewed me and made a very good report on that issue. Now, just to brief people in case those who don't know what happened, yeah. So what happened is last year, I think in September, this company, H&M, used to be called Hennes and Mauritz in Swedish. Yeah? By the way, you know that I used to live in Sweden, and actually this company, H&M, when they started in the city where I used to live. Yeah? So at that time they were a small local firm, and now a global firm. Huh? So what happened is they make a statement last September saying that, well, because of the forced labor camp in Xinjiang, where the Uyghurs were forced to work on cotton, to harvest cotton, and all this terrible situation in the labor camp. So they say, we will not buy cotton from Xinjiang anymore. Actually, they were not the only one. A company like Nike and I think a few others, global brands also joined the same story. So, but interesting is the Chinese government did not react immediately, but recently, because European Union and also American government sanctioned a few Chinese officials, I think only four high-ranking officials, because these four officials were directly involved in the persecution of the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. Yeah? And then the Chinese government, the communist government, make a revenge sanction. And in this revenge, it also covers boycotting a company like H&M and Nike and Lacoste and so on. So that's the whole story. And the way they boycott them is, they took away, for example, H&M from Alibaba. When you go into Alibaba, you can't even find H&M. All the Chinese online shopping system, they took away H&M, and also they closed down 20 shops in China. They still have a few hundreds, yeah. And China is not the biggest market though for H&M, but quite a big one. 6% of H&M product was sold in China. So, and really interesting is, I just read a couple of days ago in the Swedish newspaper, they interviewed the Chinese ambassador to Sweden and talked about this H&M story. And then he said, no, there's no forced labor in China, not at all. They are just lying about China. We don't have any labor camp. We don't have any forced labor. Well, that's CCP official. They can lie like hell. So anyway, now why they are so sensitive to this? I tell you why. Because not only against the Uyghurs, they have been using forced labor and labor camp to punish people. Yeah? They have been doing it all these years. Since they took power, 1949. Yeah? The only difference from period to period is only the inmates in this labor camp are different. You know, in the beginning, they were, many people were landlords, rich people, you know, so-called reactionary rich people, and intellectual, those who do not write books in the way the party want, and then the Tibetans, the Christian, the Falun Gong, and so on and so on. And actually, the way now being exposed in the world about the Uyghurs, mistreatment of Uyghurs in all these labor camps, you know, because I have been working on human rights for more than 20 years, yeah, so I know pretty well all the human rights abuses or even atrocity in China. For example, against the meditation school Falun Gong, they have been doing not only the same thing, maybe probably even worse. Yeah, and for some reason, maybe because the Uyghurs are, so to say, concentrated in one single region, Xinjiang, so they could build concentration camp there and put in up to 1 million Uyghurs. Yeah, while in the case of Falun Gong persecution, Falun Gong is spread all over China. It's probably too much work for them to have one single concentration camp and to move all people there. But they have many, many labor camps all around China, And Falun Gong practitioners, since 1999, they have been put in those different labor camps. And we have evidence. We have even talked to people who managed to flee from China and told us their story. And not only forced labor. They get brainwashed every day. They have to watch different propaganda video. They have to write report about what they have learned from the video. If they are not happy, then they will be punished. They will be tortured. Yeah, and worst of all, those who are young and healthy, they just disappear. Not only disappear from the labor camp, disappear from the planet, because they became victim of organ harvesting. You know that in China, every year it's about 60,000 to 100,000 organ transplantation have been taking place. Yeah, and that isn't a figure coming from the official side. The Chinese hospitals, you know, someone went into their website and collect all this information and put them together. So the question is, where do all these organs came from? Now, investigation has shown they come from mainly, 90% of them, from those Falun Gong practitioners locked in labor camp. Now, probably also Uyghurs could be a victim of it, and maybe also the Tibetans. You know, these are the main targeted group. Yeah? Uyghurs, Tibetans, Buddhists, Falun Gong practitioner, Christian who refuse the party control, and so on. And also, of course, democracy activists and human rights lawyer, and so on. But one thing is interesting. Have you noticed when I mentioned all these persecuted groups in China, a majority of them have something in common, and that is faith group. They all have a faith, yeah. They all believe in God and so on, yeah. From the Uyghur to the Tibetans to the Falun Gong and the Christian and so on. Why? I tell you why. Because the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, they want to be the conqueror of the world, yeah. You know that I've been. It's no. I mean, there's thousands of reasons to see that they are doing that, yeah? And on their way to become the conqueror of the world, yeah, they don't want anything stand on their way, yeah? That means people don't do as they tell them to do, yeah? People who have their own belief, have their own thinking, that's no good. They are obstacles, so get rid of them. So who are these obstacles? Well, Of course, many groups, but the toughest one, which they find it most difficult to make them become 100% obedient, are the faith group, because they have some higher belief. Yeah? They are strong spiritually. They are not, many of them, they are not even afraid to be killed by the Communist Party. So, and that's why in the persecution, you see all the time, since 1949, faith groups are always severely persecuted. But you see, I don't think they will be successful, because spiritual power cannot be conquered by torture, by weapon, by electric shock and all this. It is something in the mind of the person, something in the heart of the person. And a policeman with his electric shock stick, yeah, cannot change the heart of a person. Not that easy. So I think they are fighting an impossible war. And I think the world is getting to wake up now. And I mean, this sanction the EU did, yeah, against these 4 officials who are directly involved in persecuting the Uyghurs is the first time since more than 30 years. Last time it was after the massacre in Tiananmen Square. And in my opinion, EU should sanction not only officials involved in persecuting Uyghur, but also persecuting Tibetan, persecuting Falun Gong practitioner, persecuting Christian, and so on. All of them. They are. All these are criminal acts should be punished. And of course, sanction is not enough. I hope more and more people understand, including H&M, should understand. The regime in Beijing is a bunch of gangsters. It is, as I said before, a transnational criminal organization. And I was telling also the European politicians, the only way EU can have a correct policy against China is to understand that the regime is a criminal organization. Only by understanding this, and that as a starting point, you can work out a functioning strategy in the case of how to get rid of CCP. Thank you for today, and do click like if you like it, and again, check your subscription, and do support us through Patreon and PayPal. Thank you. Bye-bye.